May 13th, 2014 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mireya, would you please lead us?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you have a moment of silence for me?
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
You were right there.
We didn't know where you were. All right. Is Lake County Animal Care and Control here? Yes, they are, with a very cute puppy. Please come on up. This is presentation of animals at the Animal Care and Control Shelter.
Good morning. My name is Bailey Nolan. I'm with Animal Control, and this is Sunny. Sunny is a 2-year-old male Chihuahua mix that came to us as a stray in Lower Lake. We've had him since the 18th of April, and he's been available for quite a while now. He's a really sweet guy, very docile. He really just likes to sit in your lap and do pretty much nothing. He was neutered by us, and he's in Kennel 2 at Animal Control. If you're interested in him, you can call our phone number, which is 263-0278.
Looking dog looks a little small to chase cows, though.
Yes, for sure. He probably doesn't think so, but
263-0278.
correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Our item 5 on the agenda, consideration of items not appearing on the posted agenda. Do we have any of these today? All right. Item 6, current construction projects contract change orders. Any of those today? No. All right. And we move into approval of the consent agenda. And consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by the board. So are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, if nothing is to be removed, I move passage of the consent agenda as presented, I guess 7.1 to 7.5, is that, or is it?
We've got a new numbering system here, so
That's
bear
what
with
I
us.
want to make sure that the numbering system's correct on my computer, so, okay. 7.1 to 7.5.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move into our current item. Our 9:05 a.m. item is too late. So we will move into a non-timed item, which I guess at this point would be Supervisor's Week to calendar, travel, and reports. Supervisor Comstock.
I guess tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock it will be held on in Middletown. It's Lake Transit Authority and the APC. I'll be attending that. And then Thursday, Henderson Springs mitigation meeting. I missed that one as I'm going to be out of town for a few days. My grandson's birthday. I missed that meeting, so I'm going to be.
Which date is this?
Well, I'm going to be meeting Thursday.
Oh, what date? What meeting date?
Well, it's the Anderson Springs mitigation. It's the, there's two of them, there's Cobb and Anderson Springs. So the Anderson Springs one I always attend, only miss that, and then I'll be back.
Late in the weekend.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Smith.
Tomorrow I also have the APC and LTA meeting. It's at 8:30 in the morning.
Ah, it's earlier. That's even better.
That's right. It's, I'm glad I
Thank you.
looked at that.
Thank you. I'd have been a half hour late.
Yeah, I would have been too if I hadn't really paid attention to the time. But it is down in Middletown for a change, which is good. We like to move it around the county. Then the judge breakfast on Thursday morning. Is the Indian gaming, Rob, at
22nd. Isn't it? Is it 50? Oh, that's right. No, I have it on here.
is it 10 or 2? Because I have them down for both. Okay.
If you're here at 10, you'll make it.
Yeah, I will.
You could attend the department meeting.
And then, yeah, I was going to see if anybody else was going to attend the department meeting. I planned on doing it if nobody else was. And that's at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning?
It's 10.
10 o'clock on Thursday. Okay. And then Indian Gaming at 2 o'clock, the Healthy Clear Lake Collaborative at 4 o'clock in Clear Lake. So Thursday's pretty full, Thursday's pretty full this week. I'm going to try to attend the CSRS Luncheon in Middletown on Friday, and then back here to the board on Tuesday.
All right, thank you. Rob?
I will,
Something over the weekend.
Space Committee's tomorrow? No, they've been changed. So it is tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Then I have the Indian Gaming meeting at 2, constituent meeting on Friday in the morning and in the afternoon, and back in the office on Monday.
I don't know what the subject is. Supervisor Farrington?
Madam Chair, I have meetings with constituents today after today's board meeting, and then on tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, I have nothing on my calendar at this time. And then as a heads up, next week, I will not be present for our board meeting. So I want to let the board know that I will not be here next week. And I've already talked to Matt about that in advance to give him the heads up. That concludes my calendar for right now.
Okay, and my calendar, I have constituent meetings tomorrow. I will be attending the department head meeting on Thursday, and then again with constituents in the afternoon. On Friday and over the weekend, I'm actually doing some work with Thrive Lake County. And Monday, I'll be catching up on paperwork and back to the board on Tuesday. All right, so now we'll take up our 9:05 a.m. item, and that is public input. Any person may speak for 3 minutes about any subject of concern, provided that it is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors and is not already on today's agenda. Prior to this time, speakers must fill out a slip giving their name, address, and subject, and these are available at the clerk of the board's office. And we have one citizen input, and I can read the name, but I cannot read the subject. The citizen input is the citizen is Larry Anderson, and the subject, I'm not sure what it says. So perhaps you could tell us what the subject is, and if it's within our jurisdiction, we'll go ahead and give you your 3 minutes.
It's the corruption of county land records.
Okay, county land records. That's right. Okay.
Okay. I was here a few weeks ago, and I talked about my situation of a fraudulent foreclosure. And since then, I've done a huge amount of research, and Mr. Brown has asked me to gather information as to what other counties are doing. I've sent some emails to you folks. You may have gotten them. There's a lot going on in this area. A large number of counties across the United States are now suing MERS, which is the mortgage electronic recording thing, where they basically are set up to avoid registering all of the documents that were normally required during the chain of title. And also they're suing the lenders and the servicers for recording documents that are not backed up in truth. What I've discovered in the ensuing research is there are possibly two very simple things that a county can do to slow that down and stop it. And one is there's a UCC 302 procedure where you merely ask the party that's trying to record the documents for proof of the chain of title. And if they have proof of chain of title, then it's a good document and can be recorded. Otherwise, they have to go back, and there's another procedure. I'm sorry. It's a request for. Anyway, it's basically a request for the chain of title in a longer procedure. It takes about 20 days. The first one takes only 10 days. If they can respond within 10 days, then the document is good to record, and that shouldn't be too bad of an impediment to push. A friend of mine who's a law professor that's doing a lot of research on this and is consulting with other counties is Ron O'Donnell, and he says that other counties are putting a specific person in place with specific training to understand what's going on with these fraudulent recordings, and it's a place where someone can come if they have a question about what's being filed. So he's basically saying anybody can record anything if it's in the proper format. What happens if there's a question about the recording, whether it should be done or not, and the citizen needs to have a place to go to talk to someone that has knowledge about that, so a procedure can be put in place to unwind a wrong recording.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll move to item 8.3, which is, actually, we can't move there, so we have to look at our non-timed items. Pardon me? The proclamations. You know what, I'm having a hard time with this agenda. Hold on a second. Thank you. There we go. 8.2. This is our 9:10 a.m. item. This is a presentation of proclamation. A is presentation of proclamation designating May 2014 as Perinatal Depression Awareness Month. Supervisor Farrington.
Just come up to receive the proclamation. Don't be shy. Whole group. Thank you all for your service in the community and work with kids. It is an honor to present this proclamation designating May as Perinatal Depression Awareness Month. It reads as follows. Whereas depression is second only to childbirth as the most common cause of hospitalization for women in the United States, and whereas depression is one of the most common complications during and after pregnancy, and whereas perinatal depression can happen to any woman regardless of ethnicity, social and economic status, and education, and whereas up to 20% of mothers experience pregnancy-related depression or anxiety, 80% of whom go undiagnosed and untreated. And whereas the effects of untreated perinatal depression can have serious repercussions for the emotional, social, physical health and well-being of mothers, children, and families, and whereas Motherwise, supported by the Lake County Behavioral Health Department and the Mental Health Services Act, Lake County Public Health, First Five Lake, Lake County Children's Council, Centro Latino La Voz de la Esperanza, Latino Wellness Center, Circle of Native Minds Wellness Center, Lady of the Lake Midwifery Services, the doulas of Lake County, all these little enunciations are challenging me. LakeBirth.org. A doula oblongata, is that what it is? Part of the brain is a doula.
I don't remember that being in there.
Medulla oblongata. Goes back to
I
like
would
fifth
just
grade.
should have
I
done
was suffering depression. Planned Parenthood Shasta Pacific, Health Leadership Network, and the Maternal Child Adolescent Health Advisory Board have joined together to raise public awareness and reduce the stigma associated with mood disorders in order to support and encourage women experiencing perinatal mood disorders to seek help. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lake does hereby designate the month of May 2014 as National Perinatal Depression Awareness Month and does commend this observance to all citizens past and adopt this 13th day of May 2014. I'd like to say some words.
Yeah, we always have a little something. Wouldn't be complete without, so this year's a little shorter. No, I've got my favorites and stuff. So I'm Jacqueline Lay, the program coordinator with Motherwise, and motherhood is full of surprises. So we seek to give moms the knowledge and confidence they need to handle those. We host weekly groups for moms in both Clear Lake and Lakeport, where moms can get together with other moms, talk about the joys they're experiencing, the frustrations that most likely the other moms there are experiencing or have experienced as well. So it just provides a safe environment for them to do so. We also offer a home visiting program to any new mom who would like to have a weekly visitor come, and one of our kind caring volunteers come, visit them for about an hour each week. These visits result in genuine companionship for the moms, reinforcing our promise that they are never alone and that help is close at hand. It feels good to know that somebody is there when you need them, and for many moms in Lake County, we are that somebody. So on behalf of Motherwise and the moms of Lake County. We thank you for bringing awareness to this issue. And that's it, unless anybody else wants to add anything.
Thank you. Item B, 8.2B, is presentation of proclamation designating May 12th through 16th, 2014 as Police Officers Week.
Come on. There's more out there than that.
Come on, guys.
Come on, come on. I won't bite, I promise. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to present this proclamation designating the week of May 12th through the 16th, 2014 as Police Officers Week. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Lake County Law Enforcement. And whereas the right to be free from crime and violence is one of the most precious yet elusive promises America has to offer, and our nation's peace officers are charged with preserving such right. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the extraordinary responsibilities, risks, and sacrifices that dedicated men and women who have chosen law enforcement as a career face as they safeguard our freedom and security. And whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries, and whereas May 15, 2014 has been federally designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-mast. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lake designates the week of May 12th through the 16th, 2014 as Police Officers Week in Lake County, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation, passed and adopted this 13th day of May 2014. Thank you very much for everything you guys do. And I hope you have a few words to say, and I appreciate everything all of you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the board for acknowledging the hard work that the men and women in law enforcement do day in and day out. And thank you folks for attending. I'd like to acknowledge the Undersheriff Chris Macedo, Detective Drury, Lieutenant Finley, and Lieutenant Hossman. These individuals work hard every day to protect you and to maintain your safety. It is fitting that they should be honored in this fashion because the job that we do in law enforcement is dangerous, it's very risky, but it's a risk that we choose to accept day in and day out in furtherance of keeping the public safe and keeping our community safe. Again, I'd like to thank all of you. If any of you have any words to say, Detective Drury is the head of our Deputy Sheriff's Association. He is a tireless advocate for our officers, for their benefits and their pay and the things that one would normally just expect that an individual who takes these type of risks and sacrifices their time away from their family and in many times sacrifices their lives would do. Thank you. You want to have a word here, John? No? Chris?
I'd like to echo some of the words that the sheriff said. This is not a job that gets easier as time goes on or as laws change, but you know, I've been working for the sheriff's office since 1989, and probably today, I've never been more proud in those 24 years that I am of the job that the people are doing today, because laws don't change normally to make things easier for law enforcement. They're a little more restrictive to make the job tougher. But our folks have the ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome, and they continue to perform at a very high level, work very hard, and are very successful in what they do. And I'll be quite honest, I would put up our men and women of the Lake County Sheriff's Office up against any agency in the state of California, let alone the United States, because they work hard, and we know it's not for the money, it's not for the glory. It's a calling, it's a career, it's not a profession. It's someone that really wants to do this job, otherwise they can go somewhere and do something else and make more money. So I am extremely proud of these people to help try to lead them into the future and to work alongside with them. So, and I want to thank you folks for taking the time out of your schedule today to recognize them for this week. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our item C today is presentation of proclamation designating May 12th through 16th, 2014 as Safe Boating Week. Supervisor Comstock.
Come on up. Got some good folks in uniform here. Come on up. Marv's the official photographer, huh? That, you need to get, oh, we're going to pass out some pamphlets here. Well, good morning. It's really a pleasure to have you here again, and it's my pleasure to present this proclamation to you. This is designating the week of May 17th to 23rd through the 23rd, 2014 as Safe Boating Week. And whereas a U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, of which we have 3 wonderful representatives here, will celebrate their 75th anniversary on the 23rd of June of this year, 2014. It represents 75 years of volunteering and being ready, willing, and able to support Coast Guard missions and share their knowledge and resources. And whereas in 2012, 651 people died in boating-related accidents in the United States, 459 of these fatalities caused by drowning, and 379 of these boaters would be alive today if they'd worn their life jackets. And whereas in 2013, now this talks about us here in Lake County, Flotilla 88, which is these folks of Lake County, performed 6,499 volunteer hours, which included three vessel exams, educating the boating public, and the U.S. Coast Guard Mission Support provided 78 free life jackets to youngsters. And whereas Flotilla 88 of Lake County will continue its effords to educate the boating public by offering boating classes, free vessel examinations, promote safe boating, and encouraging the wearing of life jackets, and again, provide free life jackets for youngsters. Now, therefore, this gets really official. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lake does hereby designate the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2014 as Safe Boating Week in Lake County, urges all users of Clear Lake, Lake Pillsbury, Blue Lakes, and Indian Valley Reservoir to safeguard their lives by wearing life jackets when boating, attend safe boating course, exercise safe boating practice, and adopt the slogan of "Wear It." That passed and adopted this 13th day of May 2014. Thank you for all you do. Congratulations. You do wonderful work. We thank you. And who's going to be the spokesman this morning? Thank you. And it's my pleasure to present this to you. I want to shake each of your hands for what you do. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Bruce Rogerson, immediate past flotilla commander of Flotilla 88. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for supporting this presenting this proclamation today. I'd also like to mention that there was one item that was not on the proclamation, but I think is important to bring it to the attention of the board and our visitors here today. In a late evening in August of last year, we had one of our auxiliary boats out on a patrol checking the lights on the lake. They happened to spot something in the water. They went across to check it out. It turned out to be a disintegrating raft with 2 individuals holding on to it. This was about 8 o'clock at night. The members of the auxiliary on the boat were able to rescue the 2 individuals and return them safely to the shore, along with the remains of the raft. So we actually had 2 lives saved last year by the direct action of our members in our boating program. So I thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce 2 that we have here today. 2 members who have actually been involved in this program, I don't know how many years in supporting 9 in supporting the proclamation. Harry DeLope was flotilla commander for the flotilla, I think 2 years, and 3 times, and vice commander at least twice more. And Bunny DeLope is our public affairs officer. She makes sure that the information about our classes and our boat inspections and our life jacket program get out in the press so that the community is aware of what's going on in the auxiliary. So thank you very much again for your support today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say something real quick. I was in boat patrol back in the early 90s, and we used to work fairly closely with the Coast Guard flotilla back then, and I segued out of boat patrol shortly, a couple of years assignment, and I now kind of oversee our Marine Patrol facility operations now, and I'd like to reestablish that connection with the Coast Guard flotilla and work closely with you folks, because as you know, Clear Lake has about 100 miles of shoreline. It's a big lake. It's hard to find people out there when it's dark, and we quite often get calls in the middle of the night or after hours to go look for people, and we have some minimal staffing folks that makes it difficult to try to find these folks. So I'd like to reach out to you folks again to reestablish those relationships and to work together for the common good of the people, and then we can also possibly segue with the Department of Water Resources, potentially on some of the quagga and zebra mussel issues as well with these folks. I think the more people and agencies that we throw at it, the better results we'll have. So I will have our Marine Patrol Sergeant Don McPherson contact you folks to try and set up some meetings and do some mutual network with you folks to see if we can help each other out and what our responsibilities are. So thank you.
Just for your information, the Coast Guard has no jurisdiction on Clear Lake, on inland lakes. So we are here as your auxiliary at the behest and under the control, really, of the Sheriff's Department. Oh, there you went. Okay. So we exist, like I said, on the lake at the behest and at the supervision, really, of the Sheriff's Department. And so we appreciate your comments on that, and we would always look forward to working with you and be there whenever you need us. The Coast Guard Auxiliary does everything that the Coast Guard does except for law enforcement. So we cannot do anything in the way of law enforcement. If we do spot somebody that is violating good safety rules or regulations on the lake, our job is to keep an eye on them and contact the Sheriff's Department, and then the Sheriff's Department would come out and issue any violations or any other anything else that needs to be done. And we've had that done in the past several times. Some years ago, an idiot lost his boat at Clear Lake and was very rude to our people who was doing boat inspections. So he took off out on the lake, and we called the Sheriff's Department, and it turns out the guy was on parole and had no business being on the lake, and immediately he was taken into custody from the Sheriff's Department. But that's the type of thing that we would do, and also we would be aware of the lights and so forth on the lake. We do patrol the lights on the lake for all of our safeties. But thank you very much, Mr. Macedo, for your comments, and we'll look forward to another season of working with you. Thank you. All right. I guess we ran out of things to talk about.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
I'm sorry. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors for your proclamation and your recognition of Safe Boating Week.
Thank you. All right, it's exactly 9:30, so we'll take the 9:30 a.m. item. Matt, how long will the non-timed item 9.2 take, do you think? minutes. Maybe we should take that up first. Is that the one you wanted? Okay, we'll take that up first. This is a item. You've been preempted briefly. 3 minutes. You can stay here if you want. This is consideration of proposed agreement for architecture and engineering services for Child Support Services Office at Garden Street School, and it's brought to us by the Administrative Office.
Good morning, board members. So as summarized in the memo that you have, this is an agreement for architecture and engineering services for the Garden Street School renovation project for Child Support Services offices. Initially, we had contracted with a designer to do the schematic design and anticipated having county staff do some final work on that to prepare those schematic design plans for into construction-ready documents, bid documents, and we're unable to work that out, and so we released a RFP for design services to take that existing schematic design and turn that into final design and prepare bid documents for construction and provide construction inspection services. Our panel unanimously selected the lowest cost proposal, which was with Cappy&Do Architects, and we then negotiated a contract for those services. Just for your board's information, our staff's intention is to have the Deputy Administrative Officer for Special Projects be the project construction manager for that project as we move forward. So unless there's any questions, staff would recommend moving forward with approval of the contract.
Are there any questions from the board?
No questions on the
I just had a question.
Did you take away his pen?
Yeah.
Supervisor Farrington.
Alan, what is the total anticipated budget for this? I mean, was it 500,000 or 600,000?
550,000.
Okay, and so this is 77,000, and you expect up and beyond the architectural cost, engineering cost, or is this inclusive of that as well?
This is inclusive of that.
I'm sorry, what was it, 5?
550.
Okay. So this is a significant portion of that budget for construction?
Certainly more than we would like. But
Yeah, all right.
Was it close to what you anticipated for architecture services?
Well, our original expectation was that county staff would be doing some of this work, so.
which we
But it's,
had to pay for.
yeah, we still would have had to pay for it. So this proposal was significantly lower than the other proposals that we received, and we feel like, while it's more than we would like to see, it's in line with industry standards.
I did have a follow-up. Were there any local architects considered for RFP purposes?
Well, we did the normal process for releasing this on the county website. In fact, there were a couple of local gentlemen who had expressed some interest in this. RFP was sent directly to them, but there were no local designers who responded with a proposal.
Is that it? Supervisor?
Yeah.
Is there any public input on this item? We'll bring it back to the board for action.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the attached agreement and authorize the chair to sign. Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. All right. Let's now take up our,
What's that week you're going to be gone next time?
Next week.
let's take up item
Consistent. I don't want to be known as a
8.3.
flip-flopper. That's even
This is our
worse.
9:30 a.m. item. It's a public hearing, and it's consideration of proposed urgency ordinance adopting emergency water conservation restrictions for county service area number 22, Mount Hannah Water. Mark.
I'm going to have Jan do this one because she's been
Jan.
closely involved.
So we are asking you to consider an urgency ordinance for Mount Hannah water system. It is probably right now our hardest hit water system as far as the drought is concerned. As of the time we submitted this staff report, they had a decline in their well level, static well level of 53%, but as of this week, it is now at 73%. They have reached a point that they can only run the pump for 30 minutes. Then they have to shut it down, let it wait 2 to 3 hours, run it another 30 minutes. This is how they're keeping the level of the tank up. This is very precarious, and we're trying our best to get a solution quickly. But we wanted to bring this ordinance forward. The 36 customers up there have had extraordinary conservation, just voluntary. They've done well. This ordinance is not really going to take them any further down as far as what they can use, but what it is going to do is ensure that if anybody comes in for the summer, if anything changes, we have the means to make sure that everybody stays within this usage. We have 2 customers that would have to decrease just slightly to stay within this ordinance, but everyone else is well within this range. So their usage is not the problem. The well is the problem. We have applied for funds, emergency funds through California Department of Public Health. They're going to help us drill a well. We've got bids. We've collected our information. I think we're ready to get started on that. We're going to be doing it just as rapidly as we can and hopefully get a permanent solution here. We do know there's water there. It's just a matter of going deeper with the well, and that is what we're working on, is get us a solution as quick as possible. And
I would only add one other thing to it, is that this, the depleted nature of the well is also creating turbidity problems, which is something that happens when you have low production. So it's a tough situation.
So people are viscerally aware. Supervisor Comstock.
Yes. Mark, how deep is the existing well? 120?
yeah,
And I'd read in the information that there's well driller feels that there's water. Just how deep do you think you have to go to get to it? One of them, we've gotten estimates from 2 drillers, one local. It's probably in the order of 160 to 180 feet is what the target depth is going to be. Yeah, that's very reasonable. That's good. And I really appreciate this. And if I'm not mistaken, any abuser, you can cut them off. You don't have to wait to go through the stages, or do you? The month?
So flow restriction.
Well, the flow restriction, when you get someone that's a real abuser, can you put the
with
flow
this
restriction in immediately?
ordinance, we can.
That's what
Without
my
this
understanding.
ordinance,
Yeah.
there really isn't any teeth
Well,
there.
you've got to do this.
This group of Vol groups understands more than.
They get it.
Yeah.
They get
They
it.
truly have.
Problems
No,
up there.
those people get
There
it.
aren't any lawns up there.
No,
No.
they're really concerned, but there's a community, so.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
You got the community support. You're doing the right things.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come up and speak? Just please go ahead and state your name.
Yeah, hi, my name's Valerie O'Neill. I'm from Hannah Drive, Mount Hannah. I bought a house up there 4 years ago. When I first moved in, I heard the problems of the fact that they didn't sink the well deep enough. I heard it from the well people, that at the time that they sunk that well, that they needed to go deeper, but apparently the county didn't have permission to go deeper. My concern is, first of all, love the water company, have no problems with them. Okay, they're good people, they jump on problems. Everybody works together up there to keep things flowing pretty good up there. My concern is, what is this going to cost the community? Even though it says in the ordinance that it isn't going to cost us any more to resink this well, this is it's not a very rich community up there. It's a very tight community, but it's not a very rich community. So a lot of us are very concerned about what it's going to cost, because I know there's problems with not just sinking a well, but they want to move it across the street. Hopefully, eventually move it across the street so that we can get it up to our tank a little bit faster, I guess a little bit better, and there's better water on the other side of the road. I'm wondering if anybody's taken that into account. If you go and sink this well deeper, what's going to happen a year from now? Like you said, you've hit turbidity already. What they do to our water system up there is so
I don't
bad.
want to stop you, but
Okay.
I think that we're not really actually debating whether or not to sink a well today.
Right, no, I understand that, but you're thinking, you've got this ordinance online. So just that we're all very concerned.
I think it's a fair question, but I think the easy answer is, there's no rate increase can just take place.
Okay.
Just arbitrarily.
Right, and also,
Yeah, if you could, yeah. go
everything
ahead.
that we are attempting to do here,
Yes.
and we will do because we must,
Right,
we are looking at 100% grant funding.
Okay.
And that is so that we don't have to pass any of these costs on to the public.
okay, cool.
We have actually 2 sources of grants we've already applied for. Both are looking very good at 100% funding.
Oh, good, okay.
We hate to say anything until there's a funding agreement, but we are confident we're going to get this done without having to pass the costs on to the ratepayers.
Okay, appreciate that. That's what we
And
want.
before that would happen, I mean, worst case outside chance that would happen, there's going to be a lot of discussion here at this level.
We have to have a hearing.
Okay, cool.
With the public, so.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? Come on up and state your name.
My name's Fred Falcons. I live in Mount Hannah. I've been here 35 years, so I've been through a little bit of this and understand it. We got a lot of questions with my friends and everybody else around Mount Hannah, and every place you talk about this water situation. We got a drought, we understand that. What I don't understand, and everybody I talk to, is if you don't mind, just read what the notes that I've kind of, it's as many wells that went dry up there in Mount Hannah and all around up there. We all know that. Mine did. But the county's allowing the grape farmers all kinds of water, and there's no problem there. And it's all for profit. It ain't for drinking water and stuff like what people are needing up there on that mountain. 3 weeks ago, on the Red Hills Road, which is about a mile and 3/4, or less than 2 miles from Mount Hannah, they drilled another 150-foot well for a new grape vineyard, and it's big pumps. Just down the road from it, less than a 1/4 mile, there's 2 wells. One of them's 800 feet deep, the other one's 600 feet deep. Big pumps. That's going to Beckstoffer and all that, down to their 3 ponds. If you pay attention to everything, you look, you go down Red Hills, you can see the nice big ponds, which is evaporating into the air. To me, is waste. And, my friends, that's what we talk about. And that's all within a mile and a half, 2 miles of Mount Hannah. So every time we drive down the road, we see waste, as far as I'm concerned. And ponds is not saving water. Anybody knows it goes into the atmosphere, amongst other things. Then on your way, just another couple of miles down the road, you see them opening up another 500 or 1,000 acres of grapes, vineyards.
It's only 40.
Now, I understand nature and everything has, causes this drought and all that kind of stuff, but we're talking about people cutting back on their bath water or whatever else in Mount Hannah, because the county's well is going dry. And they got ponds down there. And if somebody don't do something about that, I mean, they just do as they damn well please. That's my question. That's the reason I come. A lot of us talk about it all the time. We wonder why we're going to have to pay extra. Well, maybe you don't have to pay extra or anything, but they talk about the papers she's got there. Maybe pay penalties and everything if you use too much water, if you water your flowers or something too much. So that's the questions that we're talking about. And then one thing was mentioned a while ago about the turbidity because of the low water. The day that well was drilled for the county, it was turbidity that day. It's 100 foot deep, and the turbidity was there then. And they was told the only way to stop the turbidity was to drill deeper and get down out of the turbidity. But there was only allowed enough money for a 100-foot well, and that's where he stopped. And there's a lot of other things that went on before that and everything, raising the bills, all this for the tanks and for, so we've been all through that. But our problem now is trying to understand, maybe somebody here, I've talked to everybody I could, try to understand about all the water going down the hill to the vineyards and everything, they're going dry. There's a lot of wells went dry up there in Mount Hannah and up on Cobb Mountain. So I just wish there was somebody that explained to us and tell us, no, them grape vineyards ain't taking no water from that mountain, or what they're gonna do about it. Because we need it, or, you know, the people in Mount Hannah and on the mountain are needed to survive and everything. They need it down there for profit, and that's all there is to it.
We actually had a...
Explain to me.
Well, and I actually have
Hang on a
explained this.
second.
Okay.
Well, we have-
I've answered his question. He and I have talked about this extensively, and we actually had a presentation given here by Scott De Leon about the aquifers and all that and the influences. And we had a well driller here who actually stated that those wells down there have no influence over Mount Hannah. The problem with Mount Hannah, for a lot of folks that remember years and years ago, Mount Hannah subdivision originally was never meant for a year-round living. It was a resort area, and like a lot of areas up on Cobb that became year-round, started using more and more water, more and more of the resources, and because of the drought situation we're in, that's where we are. Not allowing them to, and you say we allowed them to, it's not a right that we can deny them. They have the right to do that down there, and they're not. There's no reason to believe that they're influenced by the water up there on Mount Hannah. So I don't think the two are even remotely connected. And Rick, what is the acreage on that new
Well, that's
vineyard
what I was
going
going to ask Rick to come up. I think we do have the right to deny wells if there's belief that the aquifers are being. We have put conditions. We put conditions in place.
But
If
there
we-
is no influence, though.
Well, that's the issue.
Rick,
That's the issue.
what is the acreage on that? Because he stated 500 to 1,000 acres, and I think it's like 40 or
The
something.
new vineyards down along Highway 20,
Yeah.
the old Muddy property, there's roughly 120 acres
that many,
total.
okay.
One of them was a 40-acre conversion of a walnut orchard.
Right.
And then there was the other 80-ish, some odd acres there.
Okay.
And also, we do the environmental analysis on those new grading, those new projects, and look at that water balance. And keep in mind that it's thick cover with brush that's also consuming water that's been removed, so there's a little bit of gain there, if you will. Those vineyards are drought-tolerant varieties, deeper rooted, they're drip irrigated, they're pretty low water consumption.
Fred, that was part of the present. I'm sorry.
Well, so the point I was going to make, and actually, Rick, don't sit down quite yet. The point I was going to make is that there is a process of evaluating the water sources when those are approved. And I know that just from in District 3, the ones that have been approved, if there's a question about whether it's affecting water sources, they ask for test wells to be drilled. In these cases, the mitigation measures are all part of the hearing process at the Planning Commission, I do believe, and that's where it would take place. So that's where it happens, and Rick can probably share with you how that particular decision was made and whether or not what mitigations were asked for. But it sounds like from what Rob is saying, it was determined that it wasn't affecting that particular aquifer. Rick? Do you have any idea whether that vineyard was, I mean, in the environmental analysis, do you have any idea how the aquifer analysis was done and whether or not mitigations were required or anything like that?
Yeah, those vineyards in that area, we've been able to rely on an older hydrological report that was done about 10 or 15 years ago. What we do, we look at the soil types, we look at the average annual rainfall. From the soil types, we can get an idea of the percolation rate, the recharge rate. Those vineyards on those parcels are only occupying about right around 50% of the property. So that legal parcel, if you have a legal parcel that's 500 acres and you've only got 250 acres of vines, your recharge area for that project alone is that surface acreage of 500 in this case. You look at the recharge rate, which is somewhere around a third of the water falling, recharging that aquifer in that area. So we ran all those numbers, it balanced out real nicely.
Okay, thank you.
That's the type of analysis we're doing on all the new vineyard developments. Now, if somebody comes in and they've got a 100-acre parcel and they want 100 acres of vineyard, it's not going to balance. And
And then other
Luckily, we
mitigation.
haven't had a project like that. They don't plant the whole property.
All right, thank you.
The other thing I'd say, in Mount Hannah, it talked about, there's so many people has there been there since old Joe Admiral put it in and everything. 35 years ago, when we moved there, that well was a 50-foot well, and it supplied all the same houses that's still there right now. There ain't been none added in the Mount Hannah Water District, and it was doing great. But then when the county took it over, we was told that well was not legal. So that's when they drilled the 100-foot well. But the water, the 50-foot well was perfect. It was great water. Then they hit the 100-foot well over there with the turbidity and all that. So the 50-foot well supplied all them people 35 years ago just great. In fact, they had a swimming pool across the road over there at Joe Adville's place, and everything going great. Now we've got the same amount of people up there, and we got a 100-foot well, and just like there's my place, my well went down 50 foot in the last 15 years. This went a little more than that. It had 50 foot of water. It went down below that. The water's going somewhere, and they can come up with all the fancy figures and all this fancy stuff. I've talked to people in Sacramento, talked to them in Santa Rosa, asking about the water and where the water goes and stuff and all this kind of stuff. You get a different story from everybody you talk to.
Well, one thing I could tell you, Fred, because I had this discussion yesterday with people that live up there, a good indicator is that spring that comes out of the mountain up there at Salmina Resort that used to feed the old swimming pool there. It's dry. Well, that's not even making it down to the vineyard. It's dry way upstream. That's where the problem is.
So I've been told like the 800-foot well, it's in a different strata. It's down below where we're at and everything. They just drilled a 150-foot well, same depth as mine, mile and a half away. So they're not going to tell me that don't affect anything. So but the whole thing is because of the drought, we're running out of water and everything. But then you look down the road there and you just see water going everywhere. So some people have all they want. Some people get penalized if they use a little bit too much. So anyway, that's what's been going on with us. A lot of people, we all discuss it. None of us can understand, and we really haven't got no good answers. But no matter what happens, what anybody says, the grape farmers are doing right. Everything's fine, and they use anything they want, and it's okay. And that's just the way it feels to all of us.
Thank you.
But I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
Talk about other wells that we have had some problems with in the certain districts. And the one that comes to mind most is Paradise Valley. There's no influence anywhere around there from vineyards or anything else, but their well produced, boy, when that first was drilled, it was a huge amount of water that was producing.
180 gallons a minute when the development first went in.
Right, and sure they use a lot of water, but the well just quit producing. And it's producing how much now?
10.
Yeah, it went from 180 gallons a minute to 10 gallons. So it's one of those things that with nature and you never know, earthquake, whatever, affects wells in different ways. So, there are property owner rights, no matter who they are or what they have, including Mount Hannah, that, the property owners up there have a right to their water. And we just have to, we've got to go deeper and find it sometimes. So, like I said, this is a prime example of a well that produced a ton of water and now it's not producing hardly any. And they've had a hard time even finding wells and where to put it there in Paradise Cove. And there's got to be some influence by the lake there too, because some of those wells go down, far below what the lake level is. And the lake isn't even influencing that well, which is really strange. You'd think it's right there, it would influence that well too, but it doesn't.
Yeah, just wanted to add to Fred here. He's looking at the lower vineyards. You know, we have a vineyard above us on Mount Hannah, right above the subdivision. And it's a big vineyard. It's not huge like the ones down below, but we've got a fairly good-sized vineyard that sits right above the subdivision. It's on the backside of Hannah there. Has anybody looked at that well? And what that guy is producing and whether or not he's hitting our aquifer too? Because that's my main concern is the vineyard that sits above the Hannah subdivision.
You're talking about the one off of Wildcat?
No, sir, it's the one right
Up on
right
the
up.
backside of Mount Hannah itself.
Yeah, just past the subdivision. Sorry, just past it.
It would be uphill and to the west. In fact, we were allowed to use his property to build the new tank. We had to drive, he's got an
Right,
access road.
he owns that
But
land.
he's only had, I think he's got a few acres, less than 5 acres of
Okay.
vineyards. It's
Okay.
very small, but I don't know the details of his well.
Right, I don't either. And that was one of the concerns that one of the neighbors brought up with me last night.
I'm not sure if that's one of the wells that we tested there. Scott he's got a ton of them throughout the county that he checks, but I'm not sure. If
I
that's
don't
one.
think he tested, but I'll check with Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I can look
Thank
into
you.
that, Valerie.
All right, anyone else? Let's bring it back to the board.
Just had a quick question.
Yeah, Supervisor Farrington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark or Jan, on the conversion in the staff,
See, what quick, where an awful lot of water is going up on that mountain is the pot farms too.
Well, there you go.
Thank you.
There's a lot of water tanks being put up there, and there's a lot of water going, and I know a lot.
Well, that's not the only place
About
that's
well
happening.
drillers and people taking care of wells and stuff, everything, and boy, are they plumbing a lot of pot farm wells.
Talk about for-profit.
And that's 5 gallons per plant per day.
potable.
All right, Supervisor Farrington.
The cap, what is the conversion for the cubic feet per month? You said the average gallons per day is 87. That would be approximately 2,610 gallons a month. How does that convert to cubic feet in terms of what the average user, will they stay within that cap? So you're talking about 500 cubic feet per month, there will be no additional rates,
Right.
charges. So how does that
Let's see,
convert from the gallons?
7.48 gallons per cubic foot.
That gives them about 120 gallons per day, the 500 cubic feet does, which is actually...
Okay, so it covers well above the average.
Yeah, the
87.
average is
Okay.
87, and
So about 120 gallons per day. All right, that's all I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right. So I'll look for a motion.
I'll offer the ordinance.
The ord- Move to read
That
it.
too, yeah.
He's moving to read it in title only.
Well, no, I'd like for her to read the whole thing.
Is there a second?
Please give her that.
You want to read the whole thing? Is that your
Just
motion?
her. Yeah, I'd like for her to do it. Read it title only.
Okay, there's a motion to have it read in title only. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Please read the title of the ordinance.
An urgency ordinance adopting emergency water conservation restrictions for county service area number 22, Mount Hannah Water.
I'll offer the ordinance.
The ordinance has been offered. Let's call the roll and have a roll call vote.
Supervisors Comstock?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Harrington?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rushing?
Aye. Thank you. Mark, while you're
here's
here,
the original.
I guess we could take up item 9.3. I don't know if you're party to this, but you might as well.
No, but I was going to
Might as well hang around.
yeah.
This is brought to us by the Administrative Office and the Office of Emergency Services. This is the current state of local emergency due to drought conditions in Lake County. Do you want to take that up while Mark is here?
Should I go sit down, or they can go?
You want us to stay here and these two move in?
Sure, why not?
Okay, stay here.
Instead.
The other side.
No, stay there.
Sorry. Be right back again.
I guess one of the things I've noticed is that we're seeing a lot of chatter around the state about the drought conditions. Can you, while we're waiting for OES to show up, do you have anything that you could share with us about what's going on with other districts or what you're seeing?
Well, I might even ask Jan to weigh in on this. She participated in an Association of California Water Agencies meeting last week, and a lot of the discussion and the workshops had to do with the drought.
Right, and one of the things they were really pushing for is a message that we all share, all water agencies, that this is a statewide problem. We are all one state. We're all in it together. It's an emergency for everyone. And the ripple effects of a drought are tremendous. What we're going to see, there isn't anybody in the state of California that's not going to be affected by this drought, regardless of where your water source might be, and we all need to share in that message. We're going to start including it in our message to people that, you know, this isn't just pertaining to your water system, this is a statewide problem. And a lot of water agencies have been kind of asleep because they just think they're safe, and the message that they hounded and pushed was, please wake up. We need the governor asked every California citizen to reduce water use by 20%. We all need to give that same message, 20% or more.
Is there grave concern over the snowpack or lack thereof in the Sierra Nevada? Is that one of the things that's...
Last we heard was 18% of normal
Not good, okay.
on the last snow survey. I believe that's the number I got.
All right. We'll turn it over to OES. Welcome.
The Office of Emergency Services is going to be working with partners to develop a drought task force.
And go ahead and state your name so people know who you are.
Marissa Shilfo, OES. We're working to develop a drought task force that will be a partnership of OES, special districts, public works, and CDPH to further monitor the issue and propose specific solutions if necessary for the county. And part of that would be the board renewing the proclamation of a local emergency for drought conditions, which needs to be done every 30 days.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from the board at this point? Does anybody want to talk about whether this is needed or not? Any members of the public wish to speak on this item?
Yes, Greg Scott, citizen, Scotts Valley Road. The drought is something that's going to affect us, and as a former firefighter, I know how much important that water is and where we get it from. We're going to be helicopters will be taking a lot of water out of the lakes this year to fight the fire, and normally the state replenishes those lakes with water upon request of the landowner or the local agency. As you prepare your emergency council coming up, one of the things you might focus on is a campaign of an educational program about the drought, and maybe a campaign with a slogan that catches the people of this county and the cities working together to get people to focus on drought. And that slogan could be something that catches our attention, drought busters or whatever you want to come up with, but I think if we can get the campaign going, it's going to be an educational program to get people focused on the right thing. You've got to change people's minds out there. It's not going to just be something you could just talk about once in a while in the newspaper. It's got to be implemented. Maybe children taking home information from the schools so that parents are reminding about how to lessen your showers or to water this or so forth, or who to contact for information. But we do have a serious problem coming up. Maybe educate us landowners to have wells. What's the best way to deal with that in our residents? Some tips about doing things, how to take a shower properly and turn off the water when you don't need it. So there's all sorts of things that you're going to have to educate your public because they have not faced this before. They're not aware of the facts that you're building. And I think a campaign which results in educating the people is going to be a key factor here.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll bring it to the board for action.
Madam Chair, I would move that we extend the proclamation of declaration of a local emergency due to drought conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 with 1 absent. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now take up item 8.4, our 9:45 a.m. item. This is continued from April 22nd, 2014. It's a public hearing. Consideration of proposed ordinance amending Chapter 3, Article 4 of the Ordinance Code of the County of Lake regarding the right to farm ordinance. Rick.
Good morning again.
Morning.
So staff has been working off and on the last couple of weeks with the tax collector, and also we've communicated back with the Lake County Farm Bureau and Association of Realtors. A lot of discussion had gone into this early on in the process with the board, the Association of Realtors and the Farm Bureau. And we looked at a number of different options to, you know, the number one choice to replace the requirement for recordation was the putting a flyer in the envelope, closely followed by second choice of printing on the back of the envelopes. And we've gone back and looked into that in more detail, and what we found was that it'll run about $930 a year to insert in cardstock, but have these inserted into the envelopes. Barbara Ringen was able to get an estimate late yesterday from the company that prints their envelopes, $173 additional cost per year for the roughly 78,000 envelopes they print, and they could print that. And I only have one. I had to cut and paste their copy and paste that.
That's very creative of you.
To see if it would fit. We can bring it down to 10-point font, still readable. That would be the full disclosure statement on the back of the envelope, between the envelope seams. I'm assuming we have to keep the printing between the seams, which is, and for comparison's sake, this is the envelope we all send back with our checks, and it has things printed on it, so you can see that that type of a notice would fit.
Are those things not important on the envelope that we already have?
This is the return envelope.
Yeah, that's the return envelope, and
that's like 7-point font, isn't it?
yeah. So what staff is suggesting at this point is that with some very minor wordsmithing, that you adopt the ordinance today and authorize the Community Development Department and the Tax Collector's Office to pick and choose between the two options. We're going to go for the printing on the back of the envelopes, but if it doesn't work out for this year, we would like to do the inserts. We think we could still get them printed this year, but if we find that there's a problem with the printing down the road, or that cost goes up and the inserts remain the lower option, that we do that. Just give us the discretion to do that, but every year, starting with the 14-15 tax billings, you will either have it printed on the envelope directly or inserts. And we think with that we're meeting the intent of the original ordinance. Nobody's received a mailing since 05-06 tax year, so it'd be nice to do a reset anyway. And then, you know, we'd prefer the envelope printing because it's more automated. We don't have to make a bunch of copies and physically take them and have them cut and take them to ship them off to the company that stuffs the envelopes. And for $170, $200 a year, we think it's a bargain. It provides a really good service to help protect the farming practices and educate the public.
Any questions?
Just briefly, Rick, the $930 that you were quoted, that includes the printing cost and the inserting cost?
Correct. The printing cost on cardstock was surprisingly only about $540. 21,000 sheets of paper cut into thirds gets us enough.
So the rest is inserted?
Yeah, and then the other 300, 400 was for the company, the contractor's cost to use their machine to actually insert those.
Any other questions? Oh, Supervisor Comstock.
I didn't have a question. Just wanted to say that I really thank Rick and and the Farm Bureau and Realtors working closely on this to make it happen, and I am very supportive of this. That we could have the insert till such time as we can have it printed on the envelope for very nominal cost. If we were to have to convene a committee, there's the cost of convening the committee would greatly exceed our $170 a year.
The first hour of it.
That happened within 5 minutes, probably. So,
thank you. Would anyone from the public like to speak on this item?
My name is Wayne Chadoff. I had talked to Rick, and I agree with what Rick is doing here on printing on the back of the envelope. I myself just ripped the tax bill open, throw away the envelope, never even read anything that's in it. I pay the tax bill with disdain, and that's the end of it.
Look at that bottom line, what you write the check for, huh?
That's it. And I think you can't regulate stupidity, okay? So I think to add on to what Rick is doing, I think it might be a good idea to have this also in preliminary title reports, as that way people, when they buy a piece of property or sell a piece of property, it's in the preliminary title report. Everybody knows it. That's signed, and that's part of a legal document. And then that should be recorded also. And that way it's taking it off the county department's backs. It's putting it on the title companies, which will charge a fee for their services for the notary. And those that don't use a title company and just do like an in-house transfer or whatever, we can have a form upstairs and it could be notarized, and the recorder's office can charge for that. I just do not like the idea of the county or departments having to waste their time and not be paid for it for, I hate to use the word, some moron moving up here, building a house or having a house right next to a farm and not expecting, there's going to be some overspray or there's going to be agricultural activities going on. It's just like someone moving on next to a freeway and not expecting to hear any noise from the freeway, or living next to an airport that's been there for 40 years and not expecting to hear an airplane. So I would like to see, something more legal, if we can do it and everything, to help make it recorded, the document. Okay, and I've got a copy for legal counsel. I don't know if they have anything of the real estate disclosures from the Northern California Association of Realtors. If they want this here, they can have the copy in there. I mean, there's so many disclosures in real estate transactions right now. It's not even funny. So I've got a copy of that if you guys want it, or if want some reading material.
Sure, why not?
But I have to applaud Rick for doing a good job. I think $200 is a minimal amount of money, and to put it on the envelope. I'm not sure anybody's going to read it, and it seems to me like you're bringing this here up because you already have a problem that is existing, and it needs to be solved, and it needs more information to be brought out to the public. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Claudia Street with Lake County Farm Bureau, and thanks for hanging with us all on this as we go back and forth. And yeah, the challenge was the recording. It wasn't getting done. And this is an alternative, and as long as we can keep the intent of the ordinance alive and in front of people, yeah, we throw away envelopes, we throw away paper, but it is there. And so I like the alternative. I think the group thought that the alternative of printing on an envelope, if that was sufficient, that will work. And perhaps we even come up at a later date something different. Maybe it's just a Right to Farm logo, and maybe that'll be more visual for people. I don't know, but we can talk about that and maybe keep the text off. But Rick's got a great option right now. I would like to just see approval of his recommendation to the board, and thanks for all, again, for sticking with us.
Thank you.
Joan Boss, I want to know if this Right to Farm ordinance exempts people in agriculture from disobeying environmental laws such as fertilizer being into the lake. And
no.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody has to obey the same environmental laws that exist. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Farmers do that pretty well.
Rick?
I would just, to Mr. Chadoff's comments, I think it's worth mentioning that the ordinance as it currently exists and is not proposed to be changed, so the language would remain in place, requires the ordinance, after you amend it, to be recorded in the county recorder's office and also posted in the county's recorder's office. Because it'll be recorded there, that should automatically get picked up by title companies in the future to be part of the disclosures in the title documents, we think. I'll speak with Mr. Wacker about that and see if there's anything that can be done to make sure that that gets picked up. It's easy with the local title companies, but if you're dealing with another title company from out of state, their question is how do they find out?
Thank you.
Good morning. Scott Dickmeyer from the Lake County Association of Realtors. We're in agreement with Rick and the Farm Bureau regarding the recommendations. We urge the board to pass the ordinance as proposed. And we feel that this is the best way to notify everyone of the right to farm ordinance. It won't be buried in with a bunch of other disclosures. It won't be on page 3 of a particular disclosure. It will be there on the tax bill. We think that is the best way to inform the public.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's bring it back to the board for action.
First, I guess we have to,
I should point out that there's an error in the staff memo because it's written for a zoning ordinance after a public hearing.
Okay.
So this is going to require the standard 2 readings, and it has been amended from when your board last saw it to, on page 2, line 32, to add, well, I'll read the tax collector of the county shall mail a copy of the right to farm notice. It's adding as an insert or on the back of tax envelopes.
Anita, do we still need to get a motion that it's exempt from CEQA?
That's actually included in the body
that's
of the
included
ordinance.
in it.
Okay, then we don't need that motion. What we need is a motion to have it read in title.
Right. Madam Chair, I move that we have the ordinance written title moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 3, Article 4 of the Ordinance Code of the County of Lake regarding the right to farm ordinance.
Okay, and we are adopting this as amended?
Right.
I know you're going to move to advance it to.
Right,
Yeah.
as amended, right.
Madam Chair, I move to advance the ordinance to is it 2 weeks from today?
Minimum of 5 days, so it can be next week.
So to next week's agenda, May 20th, as amended.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's the original.
All right. And we will take up item 8.5, brought to us by the Auditor, Controller, County Clerk. This is our 10 a.m. item. It's a public hearing. Consideration of proposed ordinance updating fees for the Auditor, Controller, County Clerk's office to reflect state-imposed fee increases. Welcome.
Thank you. So you have before you an ordinance to, Kathy Saderlin, County Clerk, Auditor, Controller. The ordinance you have before you is to increase the county clerk fees charged in response to an increase in fees through legislation passed by the state. And so it's a $1 increase for a public marriage license and a $1 increase for a confidential, certified confidential of a marriage license. And these fees are transmitted to the state, so we're like the pass-through agency.
Costs $1 more to get married?
For the license, yes. And in addition to that, in the ordinance, we've included some language, County Council has recommended some language in there to allow us to react to these state increases without going through the ordinance procedural process. So, okay, that's basically it.
Is there any public comment on this item? Any questions, comments from the board? I'll look for a motion then, or
Standard 2.
Second?
there's a motion and a second to have it read in title only. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, please read the title.
An ordinance establishing fees for the Auditor, Controller, County Clerk's Office, the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lake, State of California.
Okay, I think we got it then.
Yeah,
And at
so-
this point, we can approve it today, Anita?
You can advance it today.
Advance it today. For how long?
A minimum of 5 days, so
All right.
next week's agenda.
So I'll look for that motion.
Move to advance to the next possible date, which would be the 20th.
Second.
Motion and a second to advance it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, that money,
You ought to charge them a service fee. Yeah, you ought to charge them a fee for collecting their money. Good luck, good luck with that.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll try that.
I guess I will ask Matt. Matt, would you like to take up a non-tied item before we take up our 1010, since we have Office of Emergency Services, which would be the fastest, I guess, be the question.
We can take up Marissa's here.
Okay, since Marissa's here. So we will take up item 9.4. This is brought to us by the Administrative Office and the Office of Emergency Services. It's consideration of proposed ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 6 of the Lake County Code relating to emergency organization and functions, and B, consideration of appointment of a board member to serve as Vice Chair of the Disaster Council.
Marissa Shilfo, Office of Emergency Services. During the transition of OES and upon my arrival, we have conducted a review of our current plans and programs in OES, and the outcome of that was the development of a strategic plan document, which is an internal document that will be reviewed and approved by the Disaster Council, and will guide the progress in the programs of OES and will be implemented by staff in OES. That plan includes 6 goals that will really be critical to the success of the program, and those goals include planning and preparedness, training of staff and responders, communications, resource management, the Emergency Operations Center, and community outreach and education efforts. The Disaster Council is critical to that, and we're proposing that they meet quarterly. And included in your packets were the draft bylaws that kind of pertain those details and will guide those efforts and be approved later by the Disaster Council itself. The amendments that we've proposed to the code will strengthen the role of the Disaster Council and update the title of the new staff in OES, myself. And then also, we request that you appoint someone to serve as a vice chair. Rob Brown was appointed last year to serve as the chair, and will continue to do so.
All right. Any questions from the board? And do you have someone in mind, Matt, for the...
Yeah, I spoke to Supervisor Smith, and he's agreed to consider to be appointed. His committee assignments and interests and so forth align very well with emergency services, so it'd be a good fit.
Okay. You agree with that, I hope?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Is there any question or comment, members of the public, other than the thumbs up that I'm seeing from the galley?
I just want to thank Marissa for doing a great job on this whole thing. It's going really well.
Yeah, I do. I also want to recognize Melissa. I had a visit with her representing the city's disaster management. And you have a very fine lady there. She's very knowledgeable. I'm very impressed with her thought and her commitment. And she's a welcome sight here. So there you go.
You were going to say that.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Questions? Any more comments? Supervisor Brown? No, I also want to say thank you. It's good to have these processes happening now, and it's something that's been needed, and I personally am very appreciative of it. So with that,
We have an ordinance that requires standard 2 readings, and the appointment can be by motion.
okay. So I am looking
Move to
for...
waive the reading of the ordinance, have it read in title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read in title only. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed?
And how long do we have?
Please read the title.
An ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 6 of the Lake County Code relating to emergency organization and functions.
When do we advance it to next Tuesday?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to advance to next Tuesday. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, item B. is the appointment of a board member to the Disaster Council as vice chair.
Move to appoint Supervisor Smith.
Second.
Almost thought it was going to die for
So I
lack of
was hoping.
Yeah,
Turned out to be a disaster.
there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Is that, this new agenda is taking some getting used to. I just have to make sure we've covered all the timed items here and the untimed items.
Did you get that?
It looks like that
Can you
is it
print
for
those?
our timed items. Are we missing anything, County Council?
Presentation of health plan design changes?
Where's that?
Health plan changes, 1010.
Wait, hold on. There it is, okay. Item 8.6, our 10:10 a.m. item. This is presentation of health plan design changes related to the Affordable Care Act. It's brought to us by Human Resources.
I thought you were going to be preempted.
Yeah, we thought we were just going to adjourn, but I guess we're going to have to deal with the Affordable Care Act.
Jesse Pewitt, Human Resources Analyst. Essentially, the Affordable Care Act is requiring us to make two changes to our current health plans. And on paper, they look like we're cutting benefits, but in reality, they're cost neutral, and one is actually a benefit for our employees. The first is that out-of-pocket maximums must now include the deductibles. Previously, currently, they are not included in the out-of-pocket maximum. You pay the deductible, and then that would trigger you to start making payments toward your out-of-pocket maximum. Now they're included. In the memo that was sent to the board, you can see the change on paper. The second change is that prescriptions now have an out-of-pocket maximum. Combined, the two cannot be more than $6,450 for individuals or $12,900 for families. So we separated the two out-of-pocket maximums. We have the one for the prescriptions and one for the actual health plan. I'm just here to give you an update on those changes and to answer any questions that you may have about those.
I guess I would ask what's the change that employees will see?
They'll see that it'll look as if their out-of-pocket maximum is increasing by $500 for the PPO 80 plan, which is our most common plan.
But it isn't when you've gone through it, because it was already that way.
Correct. It was already that way, yeah. It just now, it includes
The
deductible.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Members of the public who want to weigh in on this item? I'll bring it back to the board then. This is just the presentation, right? There's no action required at this point?
Right, yeah, it's just a report to update you on what's
Perfect.
going on.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Patients, Healthcare Act, yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect. There we go. All right. All right, that is it for our timed items. We will now adjourn into closed session, and we have two items. One is conference with labor negotiator, county negotiators A. Grant, L. Guitavano, S. Harry Imperi, A. Flora, and C. Shaver, and B. employee organizations DD, A, DSA, LCCOA, and LCSEA. And item 2 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Lakeside Heights HOA et al. Versus the County of Lake. So we'll adjourn into closed session in a moment. Thank you.